Throughout history, shadowy humanoid figures have lurked in the corners of our vision, silent, watching, waiting. They slip through the darkness, featureless and impossible to catch, vanishing the moment you turn to face them. Some believe they are spirits, others claim they are omens of doom. But one thing is certain: those who see them never forget. Theories about shadow people range from simple optical illusions to ghosts, demons, or even interdimensional beings. Are they protectors, predators, or something far beyond human understanding? No one knows for sure, but their presence has been documented in countless encounters, chilling even the most skeptical minds. There are countless chilling real-life encounters that people have experienced and shared. Let's delve into their fears and uncover the terrifying stories that haunt them. One terrifying account tells of a couple exploring the woods at dusk, filming their walk. As they moved deeper into the trees, a tall, shadowy figure emerged from the darkness. It had no face, no features, just a towering black mass that stood motionless.
I don't like it.
Okay, fuck. Go.
Another chilling encounter involves a man who came face to face with the Hatman, leaving him paralyzed with fear. Let's take a closer look at his terrifying experience.
First time I saw him, I was 7 years old. And then he went away. And it's been over 35 years. And now he's back. I carry a flashlight all the time. I'm afraid of every shadow. Last night, I left a camera recording him, and he was watching me for over 3 hours before I woke up, and I noticed him just watching me.
Another chilling encounter comes from a man who had a terrifying experience in his childhood while lying in bed at night. The fear still lingers to this day. Let's take a closer look at his eerie story.
It did start off when I was about 8 years old, small child laying in bed one night, and kind of the typical story you hear, waking up in the middle of the night and seeing a tall, dark shadow in the corner of the bedroom. And that happened to me. I was very frightened, and you're not thinking shadow person or ghost or anything like that at that moment. You're thinking there's an intruder in the house, somebody's broken in, maybe they're trying to rob the place, I don't know, but it's a tall figure, tall something, and I'm frightened and I'm trying to scream. My mouth opens up, nothing's coming out of my mouth. It did something very, very unusual. It approached my bed, it leaned over, I'm staring up in this blank black face. There's nothing there, no eyes.
No features.
No features
whatsoever.
whatsoever.
It's like a shadow of a person.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like a living shadow.
These demonic figures can be lurking in the shadows, watching silently from the darkness, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. You never know when or where they might appear, turning an ordinary night into a nightmare you'll never forget. Another chilling encounter comes from a man who, as a child, experienced pure terror in his modest apartment. Let's uncover his eerie story. When my twin brother and I will never forget, we were 7 years old, sharing a small bedroom in our apartment. That night was like any other. We were huddled together, eyes glued to my Game Boy's tiny screen. But then, out of nowhere, we both froze. A strange sensation washed over us, as if something was pulling our attention toward the open door. We turned, hearts pounding, and that's when we saw it. A tall, inky black figure darted across the hallway. It wasn't a shadow cast by the light. It was solid. It moved unnaturally fast, gliding soundlessly. But the most horrifying part? Just beyond our door was nothing but a solid wall. Whatever we had seen had run straight into it and disappeared. We sat frozen, gripping each other, struggling to make sense of what had just happened. Then, panic took over. We screamed for our mother. She rushed in, her face etched with worry. But when we told her what we had seen, her expression changed, her skin turned pale. "No one else is here," she whispered. And I didn't hear anything. That night, Every light in our room stayed on. Sleep was impossible. We never saw the figure again, but even now, all these years later, the memory hasn't faded. If my brother hadn't seen it too, I might have convinced myself it was a dream. But we both saw it, and we both know some things exist in the dark that we'll never understand. I was 16, staying up late on a school night, indulging in my guilty pleasure, watching TV long after everyone had gone to bed. The house was eerily silent. It was just past midnight when I felt the urge to use the bathroom. I hesitated for a moment, reluctant to leave the warmth of my blankets, but eventually I got up and made my way down the dark hallway. The floorboards creaked beneath my feet, a reminder that I was the only one awake in the house. After finishing up, I opened the bathroom door and stepped into the hallway, expecting nothing unusual. But as I took my second step, I walked straight into something solid, something that shouldn't have been there. But as I looked up, my breath hitched. Before me stood a tall, dark figure, completely still, completely silent. It wasn't just the lack of features that terrified me. It was the sheer unnaturalness of its form. It was as though a shadow had peeled itself from the wall and taken on substance, thick and opaque, yet blending into the dimness around it. I could see no face, no eyes, yet I felt its presence, heavy and suffocating. For a brief moment we stood there, unmoving. Then, without a sound, the figure simply disappeared. One blink, and it was gone. My hands shot forward, searching for any trace of what I had just seen. But there was nothing, only empty air. My heartbeat thundered in my ears as I bolted back to my room, slamming the door behind me and diving under the covers as if they could protect me from whatever had just stood in that hallway. Though I never saw the figure again, I can still recall the sensation of that solid impact, the weight of something that shouldn't have existed. I've searched for answers, hoping to find someone who has experienced the same, but the mystery of that night remains. 3 weeks after my grandfather passed away, I hosted my first sleepover. My best friend and I spent the night talking, laughing, and watching movies until the early hours. The house was quiet, the kind of stillness that only comes late at night when everyone else is asleep. Eventually, hunger got the best of us, and we decided to sneak into the kitchen for a midnight snack. As we turned the corner into the living room, we both froze in place, our breath catching in our throats. There, standing in the dim glow of the streetlights filtering through the windows, was a massive figure. It was so tall that its head nearly grazed the ceiling, and its form was impossibly broad and muscular, like a bodybuilder carved from shadow. Though its features were obscured, its presence was undeniable, heavy, suffocating, and utterly terrifying. For a moment we stood paralyzed, too stunned to move. Then the figure shifted. It turned its head toward us, and my stomach dropped. A single, massive eye stared back at us from the center of its face, unblinking and eerily aware. Though silent, its presence was crushing. That was all it took. We ran. We bolted to my room, slammed the door, and hid under the covers, trembling. Too scared to speak, we stayed frozen, convinced it lurked just outside. For years I stayed silent, fearing no one would believe me. But when I finally shared, my friends were just as shaken. I still don't know what we saw, but that single, unblinking eye haunts me to this day. These tales are not fabricated to invoke fear or entertain with false stories. They are real, deeply unsettling encounters that happen to real people who, like you and me, have experienced things that defy logical explanation, things that have left them shaken, questioning their perception of reality. These are not just stories to make your skin crawl. They are the true accounts of those who found themselves in terrifying situations they couldn't easily dismiss, no matter how hard they tried to rationalize what happened. These events are raw, real, and undoubtedly disturbing, and they deserve to be shared not for shock value, but to remind us of the unsettling truths that sometimes lurk just beneath the surface of everyday life. Here is an interview with Rosemary Ellen Guiley, where she discusses shadow people and explains how they shift and manifest.
The shadow people, I believe, are a form taken by Jinn, and it took me a while to get to this conclusion. I started researching shadow people in depth in 2004, and after a few years of intense investigation, I concluded that shadow people are a form taken by Jinn. This research started as a result of getting a lot of emails and inquiries in a short period of time from people describing pretty much the same kind of experience. A bedroom invasion by a dark entity that looked like a tall man wearing a cape or a coat, and often with a hat.
Belief in shadow people is divided between skeptics and believers. Some dismiss them as optical illusions, sleep paralysis, or the brain misinterpreting sensory information during stress or fatigue. However, those who have encountered them firsthand struggle to explain the unsettling experiences. The mystery of shadow people lingers at the crossroads of science, folklore, and the paranormal. Whether illusions or something more, they continue to provoke fear and fascination. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means a lot. Stay tuned for more creepy tales,